like to think of this is for evaluations to be useful, you have to look at the supply side and the demand side, like any economist would look at. On the supply side, you need to have an independent office that can look objectively at the question, has the resources, has the skills to do the work, does it in a timely way, makes effort to get the word out so that people know about these evaluations, and does them in a way that asks the right questions with a good tone and constructive way to look at it. Now this is hard, this is not easy, and many people in universities are focusing on skills and on how to build the skills and maybe how to do the outreach. But that's only half of the equation. The other half, which is in my view the harder half, is the demand for evaluation. And to have evaluations be useful, you need to have people on the other side who actually want to use these evaluations. For that, of course, first you need people who have the capacity to understand them and to put the findings into practice and the recommendations into practice. If it's governments, you need to have people who can read these, and you need to have a government apparatus that can make changes. This, of course, is difficult. I'd say the hardest thing of all, and what we see a lot in the development community, is the broad governance environment of the institutions we work in. You have to have leaders in positions of power who have the incentives to make change and who are willing to listen to results of evaluations, good results, but also bad results. After all, evaluations aren't useful if all they do is find that everything works perfectly. They have to find issues and problems and ways to improve programs, sometimes even failures. And you have to have a governance environment that is honest enough to accept that finding and to be able to act on it. Of course, in many governments that's difficult, whether the richest governments, the poorest governments, everywhere you see around the world. In international organizations it's difficult. You have boards of directors and management who like to hear the good news, really don't like to hear the bad news. So I think having an environment, a governance environment, where leaders are open and are, in a sense, under pressure to make change, is really the key, as much as anything, to having these evaluations be used. Well, we have an interesting situation. The multilateral development banks, the World Bank, the Interamericano Development Bank, and others, have tried very hard over the last 20 or 30 years to build capacity for evaluation. And they have generally set up a very good institutional setup of independent evaluation offices that report directly to the board. Management cannot hire or fire the leader of those offices. They have full access to information. They have full transparency. They publish all of their findings. They have the resources to do the work. So the supply side, in a sense, is pretty well taken care of. And I think our office is a very good office, actually, that does, I think, very good evaluations. And we, high risk, very strong technical skills. Partly we draw from Latin America, which has really superb technical skills in evaluation. But we also have the institutional setup that lets us do the work, have full access to information, publish the work, present the work to management. We are really unimpeded. We also have the freedom to choose what we evaluate with the approval of the board of directors. So it's a nice institutional setup. I think on the governance side, which is the demand side for all of this, in all of the multilateral development banks, the governance is not perfect. Of course, it's not perfect in governments either. But you do have boards of directors who have confused incentives often. You have managers who are under pressure to deliver loans. You have a lot of political currents that go through these institutions that affect the boards of directors, that affect management, that affect all of us. So the governance environment is pretty good at listening to these evaluations. In some cases, we do see that they're used. In other cases, we'd like them to be used, but you hit upon difficulties in the governance side that really don't allow these evaluations to be used to their fullest. So I think there's room for improvement. There are also some positives. And the multilateral development banks have a lot of lessons, I think, that we can take away on how to do things well, and also problems that need to be addressed. CLEAR, I must say I'm very excited about CLEAR. I think it's doing a superb job in Latin America, and I very much support the work that's been done so far and the work that will happen in the future. I think CLEAR is focusing a lot on building the supply side, on training people on getting out modes of teaching people how to do evaluations, how to disseminate their work. But there's also a real recognition, I think, in the CLEAR team on the importance of the demand side and of what's the environment in which evaluations are placed. How do you get evaluations to be used? In fact, the seminar we're at today is all about the use of evaluations, and a lot of these issues are coming to the fore. So I think CLEAR, like all of us, faces big challenges of having evaluations be useful and used, and trying to work with governments to open up the space to do that. They also face challenges on the supply side of finding good people and training them and having the right incentives. But all of this is one big picture, and I think these folks that are managing CLEAR do understand this, and I think they will tailor their programs to address all aspects of this picture. So I'm very enthusiastic about the program.